cloud. Okay, so this is actually the final chapter of the original book. We've gone through 39 chapters, kind of, some of them much faster than others. And it's been 5 months of just chapter by chapter. And really, and I think for me, I wrote everything kind of in order. Some of them were about 25% of the book used to be blog posts, and then 75% of the book was new stuff. This one was the final chapter that I wrote, which is unusual in a sense because I like to go back to the start to write everything. But really, for me, it was realizing that if I wrote about all this stuff, about career ladders, about having principles like learn in public and first principles thinking and stuff like that, it doesn't matter. Like none of those matters, even if you have the best answers on earth, and none of this matters if you don't have a system to implement it. You just have a system where you just read a bunch of shit and then never apply it to your life because you just don't have room in your life. So for me, it's about application. That's the final piece of the puzzle. I have actually done a talk about this, which you can record, and I'm not going to recap the whole talk, but it's actually linked in the book itself because I gave the talk while writing the book. And so here's all the content we cover, right? We start off with a career guide. That was the first meeting that we had for this meetup series. Then we have principles, then we have strategy, and then we have tactics. And so for me, it was just like, all right, there's a lot of different options here, so you can pick and choose whatever you like. These are just my opinions on all of them and all the people, the recommendations from the people that I've collected over the years. There's about 1,500 recommendations. The final piece is how you apply these elements. And so I was very struck by Atomic Habits, which is one of the best-selling books of all time, which also was released a few years ago. And he said, really, like, even though you've been told a bunch of stuff, the thing that really affects your outcomes is it's really your habits, just compounded over time. Your net worth is just your financial habits compounded over time. Your weight is your eating habits compounded over time. It's not your knowledge. It's not what you say you believe. It's what did you do. So you get what you repeat, and I think that's something that is very fundamental in this whole thing, right? Like there's a lot of theory out there. There's even more Hacker News. There's more in your mentors and out there. For me, it's just about application. So I just want to pause there. Like, does anyone have like immediate thoughts on habits, like how this works, like if you have any questions so far on this stuff? This is where I play crickets. And you can, I don't know if you can hear them. Okay, yeah, you can't hear them. Okay, so sounds like no, but I'm just gonna sort of keep on with highlighting some of the important things. You can read the chapter for more details. There's a lot of links in there. Basically, I really took the operating system analogy to its natural conclusion, which is what is an operating system? It is a layer between your applications and your hardware. Your hardware being like some kind of limited physical space. For you, you're limited by your body, by your time, by your mind. But you want to achieve so many other things, like your job, your personal learning and personal branding, balancing that with your family and other commitments. To me, an operating system is a scheduler or organizer of how to run all those applications on top of limited hardware. That is essentially what operating systems do in real life. So I kind of make all the analogies. I said tactics are like utilities. These just like one-off things. Strategies like big apps. Maybe you live in Notion all day. Maybe you live in OneNote all day, or Visual Studio or IntelliJ. And then principles like demons, they're just always in the background, always on. They'll just pop up whenever you need to, but you never really think about them. They just are default way to operate in life. So that's how I think about this, right? Like your hardware is your body and your brain. Your roles that you're trying to play in life, those are your multiple conflicting goals, and you use these applications to achieve those goals. But really, at the end of the day, the interface between how you're trying to apply them compared to what you actually do is just the habits. So for me, like I actually broke it down to a few habits with computer science analogies. So we talked about your firmware, which is your physical and mental health. We talked about external devices, which is how you and the things around you are part of you, right? Like, so my note-taking system, my networking system, my virtualization or empathy system, which is essentially your network. You can really take that analogy pretty far in terms of like your operating system. These are all the components of the operating system, actually. Your scheduler is the third piece, or process manager. Do you drop tasks? You know, when people throw you a bunch of tasks, like, are you able to separate and attend to the higher priority tasks over the low priority tasks? Again, I'm not perfect at this either, but I think it's super important to constantly think about it and work on it, because these are the things that will never go away. And they're part of the operating system as well. And then finally, the kernel, which is drive, which is the process 0 out of process 9,000 processes. So it's called many things. It's purpose, vision, mission, calling, motivation. I really like this book from Dan Pink. He has a very funny URL. Oh, okay. I think it looks like he changed the URL. So I should just update this. But it is a fantastic book, and he talks about how external motivation actually destroys intrinsic motivation, and really the thing that we want to do is to make ourselves happy. So that's all the sort of firmware and operating system analogies that I can draw for physical health. I think we need to make this life sustainable. I had more pictures that I wanted to show you. There's a lot of stuff. Like, sometimes people ask about like sleep. Sometimes people ask about RSI. You know, I tend to care a lot more about this, particularly whenever I have a stable place of living. I will always get a standing desk. I'll always make sure that my monitor is at my eye height. I always try to sit up straight, because over time, if you do 40, 50 years of this career, it will really start to wear on your body unless you take care of it now. So that's something I really want to remind everyone, even though we tend to be generally pretty young in this course or in a cohort group. This is the stuff we'll be doing for the next few decades. So we better get it right. Just have the habit, and just you'll never worry about it. Whereas people with bad habits will wake up 20 years from now and wonder how they got here, or they'll know how they got here. They just never took the time to address it. So I personally started using one of these. Not these. This is actually from Trey, who's one of our community members, and he just snapped a screenshot of his keyboard, and I was like, wow, this is super advanced. And I have one of those wrist braces as well, because I get my hands kind of curling up sometimes way too hard, and you actually need to hold your hands up like that to make sure that you don't get RSI. There's also, you know, stuff about the software developer food pyramids, ideas for working from home. I think all of these are just like really, really interesting ideas. They're all linked in the book, so you don't have to take notes, or if you want the sources, you can go check them out. But you know, don't take it from me. Take it from the people who are giving all this advice. Scott Hanselman is one of the most highly regarded sort of resources out there, and for him, you know, people ask him for advice, like, any tips, advice you wish you had known when starting out. And he's like, man, I don't care about your learning. I don't care about like what job or what your salary is. Build a network of positivity, take care of yourself, your hands, your brain, and your money. Treat them right, and they'll last you 30, 40, 50 years. Like on his time scale, like, it doesn't really matter what you do in 3 to 5 years. It matters what you do in 30 to 50 years. And I think that's a really good perspective for people to just like sit back and think about, like, hey, a lot of this game is just being in it for the long run, doing it for long enough. If you don't get lucky this year, you maybe get lucky next year. You just gotta stay in the game instead of burning out. And for me, you know, one of the scariest examples of burning out, I'm going to jump straight to the burnout chapter. Is this guy. One of the most highly voted pieces on Hacker News says, I am extremely disillusioned with technology. Please help. You know, and then there's another guy that says, you know, he got the dream job at Google. I've been slacking off at Google for 6 years. How can I stop this? I only use 10% of my mental capacity for work. For a lot of people, they feel like this is a dream job. Wow, you work at Google, you make a lot of money, and you're not working very hard. But it's not. It feels kind of meaningless for you to stay at a job where you're not being used. You're not working on things that you're proud of. So I think that's something that you want to think about as well. You want to think about your drive, which is sort of the part four, the kernel of what you're doing, the operating system. There's a lot of systems around thinking about drive. We talked about Ikigai last time. There's also this octopus from Wait.Why, which I really like as well. Thinking about a few different dimensions, essentially 5 dimensions of personal, social, moral, practical, lifestyle stuff. And really, like, at the end of the day, like, you can always analogize to a software system. Like, we don't have the equivalent of a activity monitor. It would be really nice actually to see like the percentages. But it's really about being sustainable for the long run and hanging in there. And to me, that is the sort of baseline operating system message that I try to give people. Okay, so questions, thoughts?
Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, I was going to say that's very relevant because, yeah, I usually ignore the physical, but I had an injury where I thought, okay, I need to take care of my physical body. And then you also had an article. It was like this lady who talks about the oh man, I've forgotten. Never mind. Sorry, go ahead, Dorian. The one about when she's old and this body, it hasn't slept, she hasn't taken good care of it, and now she's like 70 or 80, and then yeah, then she's kind of regretting and saying, okay, take care of your body, something like that. I'll have to find, but I found it very, very moving.
I was just going to say the RSI stuff was definitely it was an eye opener for me because I had a bad index finger injury, which really sucked for a few months. It's finally starting to get better, but now I definitely focus a lot more on trying to get all my ergonomics in order. So that was definitely a big help in the book.
Yeah, everything from how your hands, not a lot of us are conditioned to kind of have our hands up like that. It's actually pretty unnatural, right? Right. So that chart from the Harvard RSI place, this thing, you can actually do exercises to stretch them. This is temporary. The real place that you really want to take care of is when you're sleeping. Do you sleep in the clenched position? That's actually brutal, because if you sleep for 8 hours like that, you come out really wondering why your hands are so stiff. For your finger stuff, yeah, I don't really know if any of this can help. There is voice coding, which is pretty advanced. So I don't know if I put any.
I saw that. That was a code editor that was doing it. I forgot the name.
Yeah. I had a coworker who was potentially going to hand surgery, so I gave him some of the links to voice coding, and he was pretty excited. But at the end of the day, he didn't need the hand surgery. So I think it's called Talon Voice, and they got some pretty impressive demos, developers actually coding this. The other resource I point people to these days is Josh Como, and he has a nice demo of voice coding. I think he actually has a video. Sorry?
What doesn't Josh do?
Slap second, go up. Styled button wrapper.
This is him.
Blank rule background color.
Coding.
Color variable primary. Slap. Blank rule font size. 2 red each made. Slap. Rule.
It's kind of weird that the commands are not normal English, so I guess you have to memorize a special language.
Cursor pointer.
And I definitely say a lot, and I change my mind a lot. So you have to say delete or undo. So yeah, I think the RSI thing is helpful for sure. The other thing for me is the scheduler system, which I think I have made progress on since writing this book. So we talked about the scheduler system. That's how there's actually a lot of scheduling theory that you can find in the operating systems literature, which I really like. There's thinking about having a long-term scheduler versus short-term scheduler. Like long-term meaning, do you have a system for thinking about your year or your decade? Short-term scheduler meaning you have a system for thinking about your day and your week. And I really like exploring all those things. The main system of progress that I had was diving into Cal Newport's system, I think, which we also talked about maybe 2 weeks ago. So if we talk about the Cal Newport system, again, these are my audio notes. He's talked about a lot about time block planning for your calendar, but really what I really want to show you is time management here. So like the first step would be to give every minute a job, to time block plan your week. I had a really interesting email. Let's see. Let me see if I can obscure who this is, and then I can just show you what he did with his time block plan, which is fascinating.
Yeah, this is a major pain point for me, scheduling.
Okay, so I think this is fine to show you. So let me just make sure I copy image, I guess. Just post it on Excalibur. Okay, 1 second. All right, this is it. Okay, okay, I can bring it back up again. And this, he sent me this, and I was like, wow, that is a 50-hour week. You have 5 hours on team and culture. This is a founder. He has 34 hours, 3 hours on this, 2.5 hours on this, 1 hour each on like miscellaneous stuff, and 0 for emergencies. This is actually really bad. So I'm working it through with him. He used to have 2%, 2 hours on emergencies. In other words, some kind of buffer in case something happens. And he's still working a 50-hour week, which honestly is not too bad for a founder. Founders do more than that. But like, yeah, you only have so many hours in a day. You might as well have a conscious plan for them. And if that means you have to cut something, then better cut it intentionally than to just drop it, which I think is really super helpful. Second thing is to set up task boards, basically literal Kanban boards for yourself. Like, not because you're being forced to, but because it means that you have a place to store tasks so you don't drop them. So you're keeping every track of every task and their status. And what I really like is inspiration about what kind of boards to have. So you have a special board for this week. You have a special board for I'm not sure. You have a special board for major projects. You have a special board for waiting to hear back. Sorry, board or column. I mean column. So for example, once you're done, you tick something off of this week, that might go straight into the waiting to hear back section, because you might be depending on someone else. And for me, I often have waiting to hear back sections from people that I forget. And then it's like 2 months later and I'm like, shit, like where did that go? That is me forgetting because I don't have my task board system set up. It might go ambiguous, in which case you need to keep an eye on this, because this is the kind of thing that's not going to proceed unless you push it forward yourself. You're just going to leave it there. It's a thing that you wanted to do, but you blink and it's been a year and you haven't done it. So having ambiguous task board and just leaving it out there, making obvious, is really important. And of course, you want to always make progress on major projects. And then for him, like, this is the basic, like, I think this is the basic level that everybody should reach. Full capture. By the end of the day, every obligation is out of your head in a trusted system. So there are 3 places that are valid: email inbox, calendar, or task board. For me, I have a ton of unread DMs, which are essentially my to-do list. I think that's a bad idea. I should probably stop doing that. I should take my to-do list outside of the DMs, because the DMs sometimes accidentally go from unread to read because you just like viewed them. And sometimes you cannot mark them unviewed, and you just forget. This happens to me multiple times a week. So I really need to just capture this and get to this point. I think I have this down. I have a little bit of this. I'm not very disciplined about it, and I need to make sure I get here. Then I know that one of the best managers that I had does this as well. Every Sunday, without fail, plan the week. And I start the week on Monday, and I don't have a plan, and I just go until Friday. And I know that I could be doing better by starting a week on Sunday and saying, all right, I'm gonna spend 1 hour marking out what are important parts of the week and what I need from whom, and like what was I expecting to have and I haven't done yet. Blocking time for critical things, saying no to sort of miscellaneous stuff. And that interfaces with your daily stuff all the way up here. Then there's a strategic plan, the long-term plan for your professional life. And then you automate and eliminate. So making everything else before this was manual, trying to find ways to delegate, trying to batch stuff together, so you don't do context switching, and then leaving projects and stepping away. And then he has a really nice last one, which is go for it. Once you're in control of your whole life, then you're like, you should do more ambitious projects and having big swings because you have your shit together. But like, I really like this guide as a guide to having your shit together that I never really had until now. And so that's probably the biggest progress that I made this year, which is like trying to figure out like what plan makes sense to me and how, like, what's the system by which I can process all the stuff that I'm going through.
Yeah. Sorry, that's like a big thing I think I've been trying to figure out this year. Like dabbled in Para and GTD, and I just started reading Building a Second Brain that you recommended. And it's just like, so, you know, you have to take all the time to understand the systems, but like life keeps going. So you never fully implement the system.
So I like, yeah, I mean, this is the point, which is like, there's a progressive step. Like you don't have to do all the things all at once. Start off with just a basic plan and then start the next thing and then the next thing. I've gone through all those systems as well, like you said. And yeah, I actually boiled down Para, Second Brain quite a lot for myself because there's just a lot in there. But he's done it. He's boiled it down a lot too. It used to be like 12 things that you have to get through in terms of his syllabus. Now he's got it down to 4 with the code system. That's pretty good. That's an improvement from 12. There used to be a lot more jargon in this thing, but you gotta keep it simple and make it applicable. For me, the main thing is like keep organizing your knowledge for production of content. So like that's a super helpful thing for me. Cool. Yeah, I won't sort of belabor the points. I think understanding what makes an operating system, like we are actually, as computer science people, like very, very good at squeezing a lot of performance out of a limited set of physical resources. And it's called operating systems theory. So we should just think about the analogies between the human and machine, and like try to think about applying that. And as a plus, you get to learn about operating systems as well. So I had a ton of fun researching this chapter. Highly recommend checking it out. You can watch the talk if you're on like an easy mode introduction for this, but otherwise I won't sort of repeat the process. Yeah, okay. So I'll end off with this section, which is I think that, you know, I tweeted this out a while ago, and it was really super helpful for people. Like, this is the emotional journey of a project, but really it's also the emotional journey of a career. Like when you start off, you're making some progress, you get some first easy wins, and you're like, wow, this is, you know, this is going really well. Then everybody runs into some kind of rut, and you have to have your network that kind of keeps you out of despair. So there's a little bridge here, and I really like that visual. You know, at the end of the day, the great thing that you're creating is your career. And the emotional journey of creating anything great is full of ups and downs like this. And so I think being able to step back and go, I'm just working through it, or, you know, or like I'm claiming success on something, but really I'm not really there yet, not done. And having the tenacity to say, hey, we got through the shitty part, now let's push through and actually make it something great. That is really something I admire and respect for people, and I think that is how a lot of people create great careers. So yeah, that's the emotional journey. I think that's the general sort of operating system place. I think that's really it. You know, I think it's a pretty simple concept, but it's pretty profound in the sense that if you take it seriously, there is a lot of habits to break and a lot of habits to adopt, right? And all of these are individually maybe not so hard. All of them together means you're changing your life. And and I'm still in the process of it. I'm very much not perfect, but I can tell that this is the system that just makes the most sense. It's the super system. It's the system of systems. And if we don't have this sorted out, if we don't have this part sorted out, none of this part is really going to come together. You're just going to keep buying more books and listening to more advice, and then you're going to keep wondering, why am I not successful yet? It's that application process and that transition process. So yeah, I think that's it.
Have you ever thought about moving it up in the book for version 3?
Why?
I think
Because it's so
definitely,
important.
yeah, like at least tease it, like, you know, you're building the system, your operating system through these
I think it
modules.
teased it. I mean, you know, if you read it in terms of the TOC, maybe, but also, yeah, you could. I could do it. I could do a better job of it. I kind of leave it as like a bonus. Like if you made it to the end, you get rewarded with this like mic drop moment of, yo, the previous 39 chapters don't mean shit if you don't read this chapter.
Right.
Yeah, Chad Stewart.
Yeah, I kind of actually would have to agree as well. Like, I actually would go as far as to say that I would definitely structure the book around the idea that, you know, like you want to build these habits kind of based on on your previous chapters. And so, you know, you would start, at least this is my opinion, but you would start the book with,
That's okay.
hey,
Yeah.
yeah, hey, yeah, like, you know, I can tell you everything that will make you successful, but it's more about your habits. And, you know, these are how, not necessarily how, but these are why your habits are important. And then here are the things, and then like the other chapters are like, here is like something important that you may want to adopt as a habit in a sense, you know, or think ways of thinking type deals. So it's kind of like each chapter is maybe not necessarily reinforcing, because obviously you can't do 39 different things and call that a system, but you know, they can kind of pick and choose. And so it becomes kind of like picking what's important to them, especially at that moment. But they know that is like the thing that I need to start with is the habit. So it's like the habit chapter sets the foundation, and the rest of the chapters are like, this is how you leverage the foundation to improve your career. That's just my opinion.
I think you're muted, Sean.
God damn it. You would think I have figured this out by now. Yeah, I know, I hear your opinion. But honestly, like I wrote this here because I was like, I finished the previous 39 chapters and I was like, wait, something's missing. And so I came up with this. And if I were to write a second book, this would say basically the MVP of the second book. This would be the title because people love this title. And then I would just go into more detail about each of those things. But yeah, maybe I should just restructure the organizing principle. Maybe move this up to chapter 1 and make it the organizing principle. You like that, Julius? Okay.
Fun too.
Yeah.
So it can also be
Man.
at the beginning and at the end.
Sure. Yeah, we can yeah, we can do operating system part 1 and then operating system part 2. Okay.
Because it gives it some depth. Sorry, when I picked up the book the first time, I thought, oh, this is like the standard blog post turned into a book. And then I kind of skipped the first few chapters. Then
yeah,
I read in the middle, and then
yeah,
that was more convincing.
yeah,
I found
yeah.
it helpful.
I mean, you know, I it's not like I have a lot of experience doing that stuff, but that's true. I think I should reshape it. You know, so right now this book is 550 pages all told, including all the references and stuff. I want to get it down to 100 pages. And so essentially it's a very, 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 and like almost no links. So it basically needs to be like, because I need to print it. I need the physical copy. People really want the physical copy. So essentially I think basically I'll just take this chapter and then rewrite everything else. Let's just like drop everything else and then just kind of try to figure out how I can add it and add back in the important parts. So, but yeah, I mean, like this is kind of the first version. We walked through the whole book. I did start adding chapters, so maybe I'll give you some thoughts on like the bonus chapters. Basically, there are other concepts. There was actually a 5th section. There were actually 50 chapters that are originally planned. Because I had too many ideas. So these are concepts where I was just like, they have no practical application, but they are theories that guide my behavior. I don't know. So big L notation, friend catches, and luck creation. There was another one that I was going to write on the ethics of software. And I've been collecting some ideas on like, what does it mean to have software ethics? So I really like this because nobody really teaches you about software ethics until you find yourself in an ethical dilemma. And a lot of ethical discussion is very preachy. It's like, I know better than you and you have to be holy or whatever. But there are ethics when it comes to what you work on. And sometimes you have to make some choices that you don't really have a system to guide on. And people have put in real effort and thought into the risk zones around ethics, particularly with user data, particularly with machine ethics, like, machine learning, computer vision. You can just be accidentally racist or accidentally spreading disinformation of Russian agents. And like, you're like, I was trying to make a Facebook and suddenly I'm deciding global elections. And that's just really, really a powerful concept that I think people should have in their education, like, because otherwise we'll never think about it or we'll not be ready when we have to. So yeah, those are the extra chapters. I had a few more, but those are not as well fleshed out. But hopefully, I think my number one job is not to keep adding, but to start the rewrite process, and maybe I'll just start it on this. So perfect. Well, thank you. This has been a long journey. I know I've been on and off sometimes, and not been the perfect host, but I really wanted to do this just so like I have a recorded companion for everything. Plus, it gives you the chance to ask questions and interact with others on just like stuff that you're going through. So thanks. Chat.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask the question of what is going to happen after this, since technically this is the last meetup.
Yeah, so I'm going to take the summer to try to rewrite the book. It will be shorter, right? But I really, really want to deliver on my promise to rewrite the book. And then once I'm done, I think it'll take about 2 to 3 months. Once I'm done, we will probably restart the topic. We had a lot of people join the community or buy the book, but didn't really sign up for the full system. So I'll have to do some marketing around, like, let's restart the cohort around the new syllabus, whatever the new group topic is. I think that seems to make sense. I don't really have a plan beyond that. I used to have, let's say if you're working on your own book, we have this sort of creator program. I recorded a few of those, but the fact of the matter is most people are just not ready for it yet. And when you are ready, I'm more than happy to share my thoughts with you. But I think for most people, they're very much more career focused than trying to focus on like writing a book or being an individual creator. So I think that's the most value that I can add, particularly because I've just done this enough now that I know every single part of this book, and I can give really good advice on it. So yeah, do you have ideas?
Me personally, well, I guess I do have. So I think the meetup in general is really important. Because to be quite frank, there aren't a lot of spaces for just general kind of career conversations that isn't structured. Like the interesting part of this meetup, is that it's a combination of structured and unstructured, right? It's structured
I love
because
that stuff.
right. So the structure is, the intention is always to discuss the book, but you're not hard and fast attached to that idea. And there's been a lot of education on that, a lot of education that comes from that, right? And so I personally think just having something where, like the general topic is, I wouldn't even necessarily say career advice, but just something where it's like, how do we engage with either the software engineering career, right? Or how do we engage with the industry as a whole? Like, I feel like that is severely lacking. There's a lot of resources and meetups and stuff for learning software engineering or just learning coding and all of that. But there's not enough for, once you're in, how do you get better? Or what do you think about, which is like why the book and books like this are so important. So just like just something like that, kind of continuing along that vein, I think would be a good idea.
But what would be the structured part?
Well, I wouldn't say well, the structured part is like, we're gonna maybe talk about, like just tech in general, or not tech in general, but just maybe talk about careers. Like the intention is to talk about careers, like that's quote unquote the structure. You know what I mean? Is kind of keeping the topic pointed. Pointed for work. Like for instance, I go to a meetup in Washington, and it's a tech meetup, but really and truly, it's a meetup with people of the technical industry. You could be talking about anything. You know what I mean? Like the point of that meetup is to enjoy people's company. It's not necessarily to have a direct discussion. And so, like, the structure would be, attempting to have that direct discussion. At least that would be what my thought is.
Yeah. I like structure a little bit more than that because so for example, today we're going to talk about writing conference writing, or today we're going to talk about negotiating. Like that's what I think about when I talk about structure. So then it'll be like slightly different week to week, then people can come with different topics. But we'll think about new topics to try to come up with. I remember one of these sessions, we actually just dropped the topic altogether, and we're just like, all right, screw it, let's just do finance. Finance for developers, and I did a whole hour on finance for developers. It's something I'm very keen on as well. If I had a third book, I'll do finance for developers. What's up, Dorian?
I also, like, even if you're not able to lead them, I think it would be cool to keep the meetups going.
Okay.
Even if it's just a Discord talk where people can come and talk about, maybe we talk about principles, or like maybe the topic of the month is just principles, or the topic of the month is tactics or strategy, so we can continue building the community with each other.
So, okay, if you want to do this, if we're talking, if that is the thing, I think we should do it on Twitter. Okay. I think we should not do it in a private Zoom, but we'll just say like all 2 or 3 of you who are interested, let's just be like a co-host of a Twitter space where we talk about stuff, and and then like basically it's a way for you to get visibility. Obviously, that means that you won't be able to discuss like private stuff as much, but sometimes you can also I don't know. That's my proposition to you. Like, try to make your side effects more public, because that way people can find you more. And if they really like what you're saying, then they start following you for that,
That's true. That's a good
idea. It's something that I wanted to do. I actually wanted to do this more in public, but like I felt like it's just better if it's a smaller community. You see the same people, you can trust each other. And yes, there's a difference between fully public and fully private. We are kind of in the middle, right? We're like recorded semi-private. but even then, like it feels more intimate. Like I've met a few of you, and like it's just really cool. Like that's the whole point of a meetup, right? Yeah, Chad.
Yeah. I guess I agree as well. In terms of something like that, and I guess I was gonna suggest that we probably start something like that. I don't know if anybody's actually committing, but I say we would start like with the first topic would probably be the kind of operating systems topic because it's the least talked about topic in terms of, you know, kind of figuring out your kind of career stuff, you know. It'd probably
Oh
be
man,
the best topic to start with.
this title is so good, huh? Yeah, you know what? Yeah, okay. So I mean, well, I can work on that with you. You know, I need to sort out the Cash App stuff, but yeah, why don't you organize it and I'll just show up?
Yeah, sure. I don't mind. I don't mind.
Yeah. We need to do some like ideally, I think you know, Twitter Spaces should have a little bit of marketing, give people some time to know that it's going to happen. When is it going to happen? What the rough topic is. Maybe people can send in some questions ahead of time, that kind of stuff. Yeah. I think it'd be good. I honestly I was running out of steam. I like we did so many weeks. I don't even know how many weeks we did, right? And then I came to here. I was like, okay, here's a good natural stopping point. I'll just take summer off. But like, if you want to keep chatting, let's just keep chatting. I can talk all day.
Yeah,
I like,
mean,
you know, I put a lot of work into these books, and like I can give you the sources of each of these quotes and like give you the story behind how I found them and all that. There's always more depth behind all the words that we have. I don't want to overwhelm people, you know.
no, I definitely understand. And I think especially for like Twitter Spaces as opposed to kind of this format, like in this format, you know, you're technically hosting and
Mhm.
you're the quote unquote source of truth, even though obviously it's not 100% that, but effectively, you know, you're teaching in a sense. Whereas in Twitter Spaces, it's less about your teaching and it's more about, hey, this is the topic, come talk about it. And you
Yeah.
find that a lot more that you do a lot less work in terms of providing content. And I mean, this is not it's not a lazy
No.
thing, but
I get it. It's good. It's good. I know.
you know,
I love it. No, like I'm not done, right? Like, you know, I don't know everything, and I love it when someone comes along with a completely new idea, and I'm like, shit, I never thought about that before. You know, that really improves my enjoyment of this because I'm learning something, even though I'm you know, supposedly the expert or whatever. This is just what I know today, and I hope that in a year from now I'll know a lot more. And that means, like, you know, people come along and teach us stuff that they know, or ask the questions that we haven't thought to ask.
no, absolutely. Also, just because of the nature of Twitter Spaces, even though they're quote unquote scheduled, like as long as they're regular in the sense of they just show up every so often, you know, like you don't have to like commit to like that schedule. You can just be like, oh, I'm just going to not do Twitter Spaces for 2 weeks, and then, you know, as long as, you know, if your brand is strong enough, you do another Twitter Space like a month later, and everybody shows up anyway.
Yeah, that's true. Well, honestly, so okay, this is my theory about Twitter Spaces. I think it's also a growth hack, right? If you guys are active on Twitter and you want to you want to grow, I think Twitter Space is one of the most active growth hacks, which is join me or something like that, and then say something smart. If you're a co-host with me and we're talking to each other, like a lot of people who like know about me will then find you, and then they start to follow you as well. Like I just think it's like one of the most interesting things I want to explore. So I started doing it this week with my team, and I think it went really well. So we're just gonna like we had like an 80% conversion rate from like people who were listening and then people who followed them, and I was just like, wow, that was not a lot of work. We just showed up and we just live streamed our regular chat.
No, yeah,
So
yeah, like I
Man.
definitely can attest. Oh, I keep You know what? I keep talking too much. Go ahead.
I don't know. I was just saying, I'm in. That sounds like a great idea.
Cool. Yeah. Well, so I think I'll leave it to Chad to organize time, date, whatever, and I'll just show up. And we'll just show up. You know, we have the topic. We've already done some prep, and yeah, we kind of go from there.
All right, cool. I don't mind. Yeah, cool.
Yeah,
no problem.
appreciate the encouragements. Yeah, I mean, I really appreciate the feedback. This title has gotten such strong responses. I've been invited to speak about this 4 or 5 times already. I actually thought that if I ever did a second book, I would just focus it on this. But like, I'm so bad. Like, I'm actually very bad. Even like, I feel so much imposter syndrome talking about this because I don't have my shit together. You know, my scheduler sucks. You know, my I don't sleep very well. You know, so please don't get the impression that I do like I'm perfect at this. I'm not. I'm just like, I know that I have worked it out mentally that this makes sense. Like, I know that this is how this is like, this is the for computer, like if you understand computer science, there's multiple things you want to do. There's limited physical systems. You are running an operating system. What is the state of operating systems? Blah blah blah. Like there's like no other way to think about it. So so I'm trying to figure it out as I go along. So thanks for figuring it out with me.
That makes it less preachy and more appealing.
Definitely.
Man, I got like 5 hours of sleep like yesterday, you know, like, and just because like I was up late, like writing a blog post or doing whatever. I mean, I manage a team now, so I was responding to people. I'm working in London and responding to people in San Francisco time, which means their 6 p.m. is like my like 5 a.m. or something. And yeah, it was just really rough, but I should not do that. Anyway, no, I can't. Well, I'll call it here. But Chad, I'm gonna do a separate call with you and try to set up the the stuff that we got to do next. So, but thanks guys for coming. Thanks for being a part of this. It's really experimental. You know, I used to have this meetup like once a month, and I was like, fuck it, like. A real meetup is where you see each other day in, week in and week out, and you build a real relationship, and we feel like we can talk about anything because we just know each other, and that's kind of really what I want to establish. Like, I don't really care about numbers. I don't really like promote this that much. Maybe I should, maybe, but like whatever. Like I just care about like we have a good time together. So, thanks for doing this.
Thank you as well.
No
All right,
problem. It was great.
I'm gonna clap us off. Oh, I killed the sounds. So I have like that is one thing I started practicing in my Zooms. It's just I have the soundboard, and yeah, I'm just gonna clap this off. All right, bye everyone. Chat, I'm gonna call you later.